live here at the home of mainstream media reporter Laddie Reed, along with Portland-based transportation expert Jarret Walker, the author of Human Transit, as well as the blog humantransit.org. And Jarret, welcome to the home of Laddie Reed.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Glad to be here.
And
advertising.
Yeah, Laddie, advertising, mainstream media, sponsored by Gresham Ford.
Yeah.
But Laddie, a huge political and public transit advocate for mainstream media and for the city of Portland. So we're excited to do this interview.
Yeah.
And Laddie, you've got a number of questions written down here. I don't know if Anthony would like to read those, or if you would like to do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, Laddie thought up all these questions here. I just took dictation. Okay, so first question, what sort of work, Jarret, did you do before becoming a public transportation specialist?
Don't do it the way I did it. I was interested in too many things, and so although I was a teenage transit geek who hung around TriMet when I was a teenager, and in the 1970s, I then went off and did something completely different. I did a PhD in the literature field, and before I came back finally to transit in my 30s. I think the story of how I did it is just the story that there are actually many ways to do it, and I've always been very interested in encouraging people with lots of different backgrounds who are interested in transit to get involved in transit issues.
Good.
All right.
Next question, what are the factors that go into an effective and smooth public transit system?
Well, there are so many, and we have there's a whole world called operations, which is about the drivers and the mechanics and which is going to be a lot of your actual experience of the service when you interact with bus drivers and so on. That's the whole operations side of the agency, actually getting the service on the street and doing so reliably. There's a whole world of communications, which is about getting the information out in the right forms where people can use it. And then there's the whole world of planning, which is really where I'm in, which is about the actual design of the service, figuring out the patterns of the routes and schedules, deciding whether to build rail lines or bus lines and where to build them and all that. Those are probably the three biggest, corners of the big triangle of what transit agencies have to do.
Okay. And then next question, how does Portland's own TriMet measure up to your ideal of your ideal transit system?
Well, I try to measure cities against their own ideals and not just against mine. You could go to Houston and complain that it's not like Portland, but Houston's not trying to be like Portland. They have different values and different goals, and that's fine. I think Portland has to be judged against its own stated goals, which are very, very high. And Portland wants to be seen around the world as a paradise for sustainable transportation. And in that context, I think we'd have to agree that the decline, that the series of serious service cuts that have been happening since 2008 have been a serious issue. And we really can see and can quantify the effect that that's had on people's ability to get around. I'll give you a very simple example. We're sitting here inside a beautiful machine called the East Side Grid. The north-south and east-west lines on the east side were originally designed to all run every 15 minutes all the time, so that you could go from anywhere to anywhere else on the east side by just going up and over, and you just have to make one connection.
Yeah.
But the system was supposed to be so frequent that the connection would be difficult. Well, what's happened, especially since 2009, is that those frequencies have started to be cut. Routes that used to run every 15 minutes now run every 20 or 25 minutes. Out in the suburbs, of course, it's much worse. Routes that used to run every 30 minutes now run every 60 or don't run on weekends or whatever. But what that means inside of Portland is that once routes run less frequently, the connection becomes much harder.
Yeah.
And so the whole possibility of getting around the east side, and by the east side, of course, we mean most of the dense part of Portland. We mean most of Portland's transit market. that's really been in decline since 2009, and I think everyone understands that. There've had to be some very difficult choices in the context of TriMet's financial crisis.